Hi guys, welcome back to the Astro Imaging channel. Sorry about the delay, slight audio issue on our end, but I think we've got it all figured out. I hope we've got it all figured out. First things first. Astro Imaging channel. Sorry about the delay, slight audio issue on our end, but I think we've got it all figured out. I hope we've got it all figured out. I don't think that's my end. Is that my end?
It's mine.
First. All right. Could you just delay, slight audio issue on our end, but I think we've got that. Oh my God, that's painful. That hurts my brain.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. Now I'm stuck in a bad screen. There we go. This week's image of the week goes to Adam Landefeld for his M81, M82, and IFN. Loved these IFN targets, Northern Sky. This is just a great image. This is, I got to put this on my list because I really want to photograph this and really be able to pull out the IFN, of course, means driving to darker skies. That said, congrats, Adam. Go on our website, submit a few. I did notice something funky is going on with some of the images, but some of them are still showing up. I do see them on my end. I don't know. I'll try and get it figured out, but it's kind of difficult with the way the plugin works. Yeah. Submit, comment, whatever you like. Let me see. Got to take back my screen. Okay. There we go. So this week's session is a continuation of Alex's session from last week, and I'm going to hand it right over to him. And I think this is the screen you want, Alex.
Yeah, the
presentation screen.
Okay. My problem is I'm hearing me.
Oh, that's the worst.
Okay. Can you hear my sound?
I can hear your sound. Yeah.
Okay, well, then I'm just going to go on from here. Where are we? Oh, here we are. Oh, we're on the other computer. Hi, everybody. This is a continuation of last week's session, and I'm going to very quickly run through some slides, and then I'm going to try to show the movie that wouldn't play last week, and then we'll go from there. The whole goal of this session is to explain about setting up sessions in Sequence Generator Pro. Now, the excuse that I used was that I was going to show you all how to set up the session for taking an imaging marathon, Messier marathon, get all 110 objects in one night. Several times I pointed out that that's really just a dog and pony show. It's not really a useful type of thing, but it is a useful instructional type of thing so that you can kind of figure out all the things you have to do. First things you have to do is you have to make certain decisions before you start Sequence Generator Pro. First, you have to decide if you can even image tonight, when you can image, whether the weather is going to be good and all that other stuff. And this may have some implications about one-shot color or LRGB or RGB, what kind of color you're going to take. Then you have to realize that there are certain times when you can image and certain times where you aren't going to image. It's on every night when you're imaging. You have to know when it's going to get dark enough to image and what you can do with those dusk and dawn times when it's not quite as, when you can't quite see as much. Now, I strongly suggest that each and every one of you go on out and examine before you start taking pictures what the time is that it's going to get dark and how you can use that light. You really don't want to image until it gets dark enough, though. There are lots of things that waste time when you're imaging. Now, some of these are no big deal. If you're imaging, you can certainly afford a minute and a half to focus properly. But if you're taking a Messier marathon, you're going to have, on the average, maybe 574 minutes, I think I calculated, 110 objects. That's 313 seconds per object. If you're doing LRGB, like I did one year, and you get 90 seconds for the luminance and 40 seconds each of RGB, plus overhead time, you've only got about 38 seconds left after all that to find things. And we went through some hints as to what you can do to see it. Now, if you go back to last week's session, you can get a longer version of all this. I'm just zipping through these slides for those that didn't see it last week. Also, when you're talking about color, there's some things you have to ask about. You're going to get better pictures overall if you're going to do an LRGB with a cooled camera, but you may not have that kind of time. And for instance, in the Messier Marathon, you want to grab one-shot colored pictures, generally speaking. I've done it both ways, one-shot color and with the LRGB, and it is much easier to do with one-shot color. One of the other things you have to decide is what your target scale is. How much of an object are you going to be able to get in there? My picture of the Andromeda Galaxy here does not even fit in that frame, and that's off a full frame camera. But M40, as you can see, those two little stars up in the upper picture, just teeny weeny. Sometimes you may have to use two imaging systems. The first time I did a Messier Marathon, I got all 110. I used TV85, TeleVue 85, short focal length refractor up on top of a long focal length Newtonian. How we doing, madam?
Doing okay. I did hear some of that feedback. I don't know if you're hearing it.
I don't know where it's coming from. It might be coming from my head. I've still got, my headphones are on, but it's a problem. Okay. You have to decide what you're stacking and noise. You want to get as many frames as you can, but get more than 12. Now, this is for real imaging. For Messier Marathon, you're stuck with maybe getting 1 or 2 or 3 at the most. You want to also watch where your target is, because you don't want to image when it's too low. Under normal situation, if you're taking RGB, you want to get your reds when they're down low and your luminances when it's up above. On your marathon, you just don't have much choice. You've got to take the target where you can get it. But you have to ask those questions. We talked a lot about this, all of these topics last week. And if you want an in-depth discussion of it, you need to go back to last week's show. And come on, move. There we go. And under normal circumstances, you want a good plate solves, and you take some time to do all that stuff. You have to have your system all aligned and things. Under the marathon, you don't really have time for plate solving. So you're going to have to plate solve every now and then, but not too often. Now I wanted to show you this movie, and we're going to start this movie and see how it works. It didn't work well last week. Is it working this week? Adam, is it working?
I don't see anything yet.
Okay. I
don't. I see. It's basically just switching through the targets. I think the delay is preventing. It looks like there's a fade on it or something. I think the delay is preventing that stuff from coming in. I don't even know if we're seeing every target.
Hang on for a minute. Hang on. I'm over here. I want to switch me over to my other screen, please. And now I should you see the one that I'm there? Let me go into here. And go there. Okay, this was from when I did it 4 or 5 years ago. What is it? 2012, 6 years ago now. And now, do you see the movie better this time?
Yes.
Okay, let's just watch the movie. Some of your objects are going to be taken in twilight, and it's just hard to get a good image in twilight. The sky's glowing, the objects don't rise up very much. You see the last object in the morning, you're actually seeing movement, differential refraction. And that's one of the things we talked about in the last week in the longer presentation. Is it all going okay, Adam?
Yep.
Okay. Usually when you're imaging, you get to throw things out, but you don't get to throw things out when you're doing the Messier marathon. Now, if you're doing one-shot color and you're taking 3 or 4 targets for each object, then you do have the luxury of throwing things out. But when you're doing LRGB, you don't. That's one of the reasons you should do one-shot color. The last time I did it a couple of weeks ago, I actually took 3, I think, 75-second shots each. You know, it was really easy to process these things with Maxim. I just dumped them all into the same file, and all the flats, the darks, the all of the target shots together. And what's his name? Maxim figured it all out and just delivered me 110 different pictures. Well, not 110, because some of them were combined pictures. As you can see, what are we up to? 11:06, 11:25 at night. That streak is because the camera was still slewing during the luminance shot. These are things that would be thrown out under normal circumstances, but you can't throw them out when you're trying to get them all in one night.
Alex, your video that's embedded in the
PowerPoint.
What format is that?
I don't know. It's 6 years old.
I'm wondering if we could upload that, or it's actually someone's asking in chat whether we could upload that itself to the YouTube channel.
I've got a link for it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'll give you the link for it when I get back over to the other computer.
Awesome.
Oh, this was actually a practice. Oops, I forgot. This was actually a practice run. This was not, I was not actually going to image. I started practicing about 2-3 months ahead of time, and I gave it a go, and it didn't work. And I worked a month ahead of time, and it didn't work. And then 2 weeks before that, it didn't work. So on Thursday of a 4-day weekend, and Saturday was the target date to do the marathon, I decided to practice one more time to see if I could get the routine down. And I got about 15, 20 into them, and I was doing good. And I said, hey, keep going. And I was the only one that managed to get the marathon done that particular week out at the Star Party. So there you go. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I'm enjoying showing it. As you can see, they're not particularly great astrophotos. They're kind of poopy astrophotos, as a matter of fact. But considering they're 1L, 1RG, and B, that's it.
They're not particularly bad astrophotos.
No, they aren't horrible. But
They're a lot better than some of my first images, which I probably had a lot more time in on each object. But no, I mean, you kept the stars tight, and you only had a sub frame per channel.
Yeah, there's 1 subframe per channel.
I'm actually surprised you could get such good photos in such a short amount of time. Particularly like objects like that, the emission nebula.
What is 4:20 in the morning? This is an important chart that was missing last time. 1 air mass straight up, 2 air mattress. This is why you never image below 30 degrees. Down in here, you got 5.6 air mattresses you're looking through. Look at what a mess it makes. Okay. Also, I'll talk later about differential refraction. One other thing you'll notice is that's what, 458, 503, and 507. And then we jump like 15, 20 minutes before we can get the last one. There we go. That's the last one. And this is actually the shade of my observatory. Here is one of the things I mentioned several times last week was they don't have to be great images because the goal is to put them all on one piece of paper like that. Hey, get back there. The goal is to get them all on one piece of paper like that. So if that's all you want to do, you don't have to worry about a whole lot of things. You know, you won't see the tracking errors. You won't see some of the out of focus errors. You got them. So that's the poster I made of it eventually. I like it.
I think someone was also asking if that poster is available somewhere.
I don't. Let's go look. Let's go look. I don't remember. I'm really old. You have to remember that. And I don't remember some of the things I did years and years and years ago. Okay. Switch me over to my other computer.
There you go.
I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint for a minute. And now you should be seeing my screen. I don't know what we're seeing over here.
Never ask SGP to do something you cannot already do, maybe.
Okay. Well, it should have changed now to something else.
Microsoft Edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your internet browser.
You should be on. You should be seeing. Yeah, you should be seeing Microsoft Edge.
Yep.
And then go to alexastro.com and press enter. Are you coming with me?
Yep.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
Now DSO browser's coming up though.
My website is alexastro.com. And on my website, you'll see a number of things. Where am I? This is already set up to do a show for later. Okay. alexastro.com. Why is it not coming up? Okay, send me back to my other computer. So,
Okay.
Oh. What's wrong with the computer? Okay, something's happening here. There we go. Wow, that's ugly. Do you see my website? Yeah, that's my website. See it? Adam?
Oh, sorry. Yes. My microphone was
This
muted.
is my website. And if you go to Deep Space, this is my just my objects that and then go click on the partial collection of the Messier objects. I redid that poster that you saw, and here is another version of it. Okay, so that's my version with the pictures taken in 2012. And then here is my collection of Messier objects that I've taken, but these were not taken in a marathon situation. These were trying to get all 110 of them at one point or another. Okay, does all that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, there's that for you. And then you go back to my main and I don't know where it is. It's probably over here under articles. This is the loaf of bread. The loaf of bread. That's see that's Nightscape last night. It's on a beer bottle. It's actually on a beer bottle. Anyway, Messier Marathon. This under the articles part of my website, you will find what you were asking for, and included are the story of how it was published in Sky and Tel magazine. Some about the next year sometime. So that if you get Sky and Tel and you go back to 2013, some point you'll find it. But there's a article. This was the basis for the article that got published in Sky and Tel. Let's see what else is there over here. There's other articles. Here's the Sequence Generator Pro tutorial. Okay, and this is a updated version of it. The one that they have on the SGP website is not updated. Okay, enough of that madness. Let's get back over to work over here. Adam, could you turn me back onto my other computer?
Okay.
I'm going to go through some slides real quick, and then we're going to go actually into Sequence Generator Pro. One thing you have to do before you start is you have to set up your imaging session completely, okay? And that means you set up, get your accurate pixel field of view, if you've got temperature compensation, how to focus, your auto-focusing, your plate solving, guiding. These are not, guiding you probably don't need to do for your marathon, but for other situations, never, ever ask Sequence Generator Pro to do something that you haven't already done manually. You've got the responsibility of doing this manually first. If you're not, then something's going to get messed up. Okay, and certainly don't try to do the Messier Marathon if you haven't gotten everything else worked out. You need to make a good user profile. All right, and there's two ways to use the user profile. One is to simply start a sequence from scratch with using a profile. And the other is after you've got a sequence made up, apply the profile to the sequence. And we'll show you that in a minute. To actually build a sequence, you have to find out where your target is. Most of my life, I use a little book, but I'm going to show you a couple of things today. There are programs that Sequence Generator Pro will interface with to import your targets. One of them is Astro Planner, another is DSO Browser, and we'll go into that in the course of the evening. Then I'm going to show you an Astro Planner example of how to import. Then we're going to build a sequence and show you how to insert the first line and then repeat for all the other lines. And we're going to show you how to get all that information in. And if you're doing the marathon, not for real life, but if you're doing the marathon, you can go ahead and start with M45. You don't have to start with M77 or M74. Focus your image away from the horizon, and you can start imaging where it's dark overhead and not have to wait for it to get dark at the horizon. And also you can group certain objects like M42, 43 is an obvious, M65, 66, and what else you can group depends on what your field of view allows. M30 presents a certain problem because of it's over on the horizon, which means that it's going to be difficult to target. Your mount probably won't point properly over there. In my case, I had a wall of an observatory in the way. And okay, and for M30, you probably want to take more than you would have taken for other targets. To build the sequence, you have to arrange your targets. And how you arrange your targets depends on what your priorities for the evening is. And you have to note the length of the sequence. Okay, and I think that's all I have to do in PowerPoint. Adam, where are we on questions?
There haven't been many questions. A lot of people thanking you because they thought it was really interesting last week and this week. Also, surprised you created the poster yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
There's some piece of software that I did it. I forget what it was. I don't think it was just Photoshop. It was something else.
Okay. I remember trying to do that in Photoshop once and giving up really quickly.
It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, just concentration. And it's not like it's hard to do. It's just tedious to do.
Right.
Okay. Here's what are we looking at? Are we looking at my blank
sequence generator?
Is that what we're looking at, Hannah?
I see your sequence generator screen.
Okay. We're going to start a sequence. Okay. And we're going to start. We've already gone to the equipment profile manager and picked Canon 6D at GMORS. Okay. Where I observed. And I've already defined all the way through the camera is going to be an EOS, and I've defined my scale. I need to define this accurately. If I don't define this accurately, then I'm going to have problems later. And then filters, no filter wheel, telescope. It's actually a mount here I've got to define. I figure out, I just complete this completely. Okay, and I tell it, okay. And so that has to be done first. Now, let me see my notes. Okay. We're going to do, I told you that there's a couple of, it's 7 o'clock, so, well, it's 10 o'clock, depending on where you are. I am going to go to Astro Planner first. The reason I'm skipping deep space browser is I think it's going to take too much time. Yeah, I closed it up. I'm going to skip deep space browser. We just don't have the time for it. Where's Astro Planner? Have you started yet, Astro Planner? There it is. This is a program that you can get for free, and you can use much of what I'm showing you tonight for free. You don't have to pay anything for it at all. But for 45 bucks, you help support Paul's astronomy and software habit. It's always good to pay these guys. They work really hard to make programs for us. And just because they let us use them for free doesn't mean we should. The advantage of adding is paying the 45 bucks is you can, where are you, Astro Planner? The advantage of paying for it is you can use other things, and you'll see that in a minute. Any questions while this is starting up?
No new questions. We are hearing that feedback. I'm assuming your second laptop is muted, but we tried that before, so.
Okay.
I'm able to actually muting you and unmuting you every time the feedback starts pumping up, so I'll continue doing that. Hopefully it helps.
Have you muted my
your let me see, your laptop is or your second computer is muted. So there's no speaker or there's no microphone coming in through your second computer. It's not coming from that. It would be the speakers through your microphone, the speakers of that computer through your microphone if the speakers aren't muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you, yes.
Okay, well, okay.
And no feedback temporarily, so.
Okay, let's see what this does.
It's starting to work its way in, but go ahead, go ahead.
Are you looking at the Astro Planner screen?
Yes.
Okay. Notice some of the panes that are on the Astro Planner screen. It's daytime. See where my cursor is? It's daytime, and it's daytime over here. See, this is where the moon is. All right. And you can see that tonight the moon's going to come up at 2 something, just before 3 o'clock. And it's going to rise up there like that. Here are, remember when we talked about the different twilights? Here is civil twilight, astronomical twilight, and here's night, all right? And you want to be imaging from here to about here. You don't want to be imaging in through here, but you can do some setting up for that. Now, over here, you can see the calendar, and on the calendar, you see the new moon and the full moon for each of the months as you are going along here. And so that helps you plan when you're going to show things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search a catalog, the Messier catalog, and I'm going to tell it that I want to pick all of them, and I want to pick all of them, and I put them into my and I want to load them in there, show the catalog. So, where'd I go? Okay, I'm going to add them all. And what I'm doing is I'm adding them over here. Now, on a typical night, I wouldn't be adding them all, but what I'm doing is I'm adding all of the objects from the Messier catalog, and that starts at M1 and goes all the way through, transfers them to my list, and boom, there they are. Okay, so I've got all the Messier lists right here. Now, for those of you who are wondering what you're going to image tonight, what you're going to want to do is image something that has, you see now, I'm clicked on, what is M1 is up now, isn't it? Okay. So you see these red dots, red squares? You can see that if I want to image M1 tonight, I got to start right at sunset, and it'll be pretty much gone by midnight. All right. Now, when is the best time to image M1? The best time to image M1 would be over here above January. That's when it's at its highest. And if I pick this date, which is Saturday at 2200, I don't know, do I have my right time here? Up here. Oh, yeah, I think it's set at the right time right now. It's from Yucca Valley. Yeah, so I'm okay. I want to image it right here on my new moon, so that's the time I would want to be imaging this. And what does it look like? Well, it looks like it's over here. And you can download different sizes of these to match whatever type of focal length you've got. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to maybe arrange them. I'm going to arrange them by their right ascension. Why am I going to do that? Well, because by arranging them according to their right ascension, they'll kind of be in the order of a Messier marathon. Now, what is the order of a Messier marathon? There's various places you can get this. For a Messier marathon, you'll notice that there is a time of the year where there's kind of a gap, and you can, when the sun is in that particular gap, that's when you want to do a Messier marathon. And many people do this visually. I've done it several times. And for Southern California, etc., it does change a little bit where you are. But you want to get M77 first, and M74 next, and M33 and M31. Now, that's cool. But M77 is down here. So you have to rearrange this list by grabbing it and moving it up to where it belongs. Move it up to where it belongs. There it is. There. Go. Come on, go thing. Yeah. People are looking at you. And then you're going to want to move M74 up. Why are you taking so long, everything? By the way, let me look over here while it's working. This is messier.seds.org. You can get here by going to search for Messier list. And I think that's all I'm going to do with it. I don't know why Astro Planners take so long to do things. Okay, and then I go to move M74 up because that's going to be next. Okay, and you can see that all I have to do is go through that Messier list and rearrange all these. But I'm not that dumb, and I'm really lazy. So instead, I'm going to go into the user contributed plans because I paid my $45, and I'm going to download according to names here. And let's see, all plans, my file name, and then you can see there's a whole lot of them. So they kind of alphabetize them according. And I'm going to pick out the M's. And Alan McRoberts got a bunch of them there. Probably time to his great book on. Okay, Messier Marathon is the one I want. Boom. So I check that one. I download it, and it brings my whole file down in the order that I wanted it. Any questions, Adam?
No new questions. I think the only question is, are you sure the speakers are muted on that computer you're showing us right now? Yeah. Yeah, we worked on this for a while before we started up. It just couldn't figure out where it was coming from.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to try something here. Does that help at all? Oh, that's right. I can't hear you, so I don't know if it helps at all.
I don't.
Okay.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you now. I turned it back up.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay.
But you can't hear us.
Let's get back to work. In Astro Planner, you can see that now there's 74, 77, 33, 31. By the way, this list changes a little bit depending on where you are. So you see how that's done? Next thing you need to do over here in Astro Planner is you need to export. So you come down to export, and you're going to export a generic text file. Now I've used mine, so this is what it looks like when it first comes up. And you don't want all that stuff because not all that stuff's going over to Sequence Generator Pro. So you clear it all, and then you add, come down here and you choose. You're going to add 3 items for each object. You're going to add its name, its right ascension, and its declination. Okay, so you add all those 3, and then check your boxes over here. You want an XML, and you want to export all 110. And oh no, you don't want to you don't want to do that. I forgot. Sequence Generator Pro can only handle about maybe 50, or it says it can handle 110, but it all depends on how big a computer you got and that's actually running at Sequence Generator Pro. Mine can only handle about 35, which takes, no, mine can handle about 55, but I break it into 3 groups. And here's the first one from M82 all the way up to, and this, I'm just using the standard Windows selection things, you know, a shift click gets me the first 35. Now I'm going to go into that file, export, my generic text file. And it remembered that that's what I wanted. And now it says only do the selected. I've got 35 of them there. And now I'm going to export it. And I'm going to name the file where it's exported. And so here's my marathon A, B, and C, which I've already done. And here is the tricky part. It doesn't actually work. You have to now change the names of these files so that they become XML files. If I just save it, it saves as something else, and I haven't been able to figure it out. On the other hand, when you go over to upload it, if you've changed these to XML, the names, the text file name to XML, it'll work. Okay, I'm going to skip that because I don't really need to do that now. All right, does anybody have anything else that they are asking about here?
No additional questions. Can you hear me?
Can
I know. I know you. I'm probably very muted on
I
you.
can hear Adam. I can hear you.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, no additional questions, but your feedback seems to be fixed, whatever we did. So
Seems to be fixed. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I can't hear you very well. I'm getting out of Astro Planner now. Before I go, just remember the real value of it when you're really doing this is, let's say you want to image the Whirlpool Galaxy. When do you have to image the Whirlpool Galaxy? That looks like you have to image it in May. See where my cursor is? In May. All right. Right now, it's pretty good. All right. But May is when it's going to be the highest. And that's when the new moon is in May. So that's when you would want to schedule it. And that's about what it would look like. Or if you've got a longer focal length telescope, that's what it would look like. I was going to show you a deep space object planner or something like that, but I don't have time for that. So I'm getting out of Astro Planner. I'm jumping back over to Sequence Generator Pro. Over here, I'm going to file, import. And it's going to be imported from Astro Planner. And I'm cheating. This is not the actual, oh, where is it? Where is it? Help, where is it? It's supposed to be there. Presentations, the Astro Imaging channel. Oh dear. This is where I keep my files for all of my work. So, but for some reason, I don't see the files that I'm supposed to have here. Okay, we'll have to actually do it from scratch. File.
is it an XML file?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it might not be. Might not be.
Oh, maybe it is.
Hang on. Let me go look for it. What happened was that I was, as I was setting up to do this tonight, I started figuring out how to start the program, and I couldn't figure out how to start the Astro Imaging program. So that caused a little bit of a problem. It's probably over on the other computer. What is that? Welcome to mail. I hate that. Do we have any questions, Adam?
No, no new questions.
I told you I'd find it.
Always something.
Okay. Back to importing targets from Astro Planner. And where was it that I found it? Under Documents, Astro Planner. By the way, I don't actually do this very often. So I don't use Astro Planner. I use an old book because I'm a very analog kind of guy. And I've got, the first thing it asks you is, what do you want to do with these? You want to center when you start up, or do you want to automatically slew to the location? And while you may think you want to center, no, you actually want to slew to the location. You don't want to use the plate solving to get a very accurate position on these things. Particularly if you're doing a whole bunch of them like this, because plate solving takes a lot of time. And if you're running a marathon, you simply don't have the time to do all that plate solving. That's the issue. Okay. It's actually taking this long just to load. This isn't me screwing up this time. And by the way, when you say, should you talk about me, you know, if you type it, I can actually read it. I can't hear you, okay? Jamie and Elias and Stacy, okay? I can, okay. I've just got 10 targets imported because that's all I really am interested in, showing you certain techniques about this. Let's look at the, where's my sequencer? Where is it? Oh, there it is, way down there. And here are my targets that I just unloaded. Now, I didn't unload them all because I wanted to show you certain things, and these are things you need to know about building your system. Remember we said earlier that M77 is going to be the first target? All right, so we're going to grab M77 by clicking on it, and then we're just going to move it up. And after it's finished with its work, now I've got it up on 77. Now, see this target 1? We don't want it here anymore, so we're going to get rid of it. Learn how to use all these different target maneuvering things here. Okay, the next topic, or the next target that we were supposed to have is M74. Okay, and I'm going to move it up so that it's right underneath 77. Okay, that's pretty cool, eh? Let's see. Start new sequences. Import. Do not center. I'm reading my notes as to what I should be telling you guys. All right, now we need to add exposure information. There's various ways to do this. If you do an LRGB, you click on 4 of them and you go L, R, G, and B. But we aren't doing that. We're using a one-shot color camera. Oh, you can't tell we're using a one-shot color camera because I haven't started a profile yet. So I'm going to come over here, File, and I'm going to apply a profile to a sequence. I'm going to apply the Canon 6D profile, and look what it does. It goes over and gets all the information that I showed you earlier set up in my sequence. I'll answer that question about SGP in a minute or two. So now we've got our proper camera and the focuser and the mount all sitting there. And I want to start taking pictures. I'm going to take lights, no filter, suffix, doesn't matter. Exposure, how long do I want it to be? I'm going to say 75 seconds. Now, obviously 75 seconds is a silly time to be taking a Astro image. I mean, there may be occasions where you want to use it if your mount can't track a long time, stuff like that. Or if you're using that very short exposures and many of them. I like to go 1600 ISO, and I want to get 3 shots for my Messier marathon. In real life, as I said before, you'd want to get at least a dozen shots. But for my Messier marathon, I'm just going to go for 3. Okay, so that's fine. Now I go to my next target, and I'll go to my next target, and I want to do the same thing, right? I want it to light, and I want it to go no suffix, and I want it to go 75. Well, obviously I'm a lazy butt, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go back over here, okay? And I'm going to come down, and I'm going to click my right click, and I'm going to copy events 2 and all of the other targets that I'm going to be dealing with at any given night. And with the Messier marathon, I'm going to be dealing with 110 of them eventually. I'm just going to select them all. I'm going to go OK. And it's going to copy. And one of the reasons I've only got 10 targets here is because it actually takes a very long time to copy all those in. Okay, what if you don't trust your mount's go-to? I agree with you. If you can't trust your mount to go to 3, 4, 5 objects in a row, you need to work on your mount. But if, go ahead, start, plate solve if that's what you want to do. Okay. You tell your friend that he should be embarrassed for not having a good mount. Okay, tell your friend that. Okay, because I know what you mean. No, just the other thing I'm going to point out is I'm not saying don't plate solve at all. If you've got 110 objects you're going to run through the night, plate solve every 5 or 8 or 10, depending on how much you trust your mount. Okay, now Elias asks, does Sequence Generator Pro plate solve automatically, or do you need to have it set up? You definitely need to have it set up. You have to download specific maps for your field of view, etc. It's real easy to do. Plate Solve 2 comes with the system, and the instructions are pretty obvious as to how to do it. But yeah, remember, if you're going to try to run the Messier marathon, all this stuff must be set up way in advance. Remember when you were looking at my website, there was a tutorial on that website for setting up Sequence Generator Pro. It's called The First Week with Sequence Generator Pro, and it will tell you, among other things, how to set up your plate solving. Okay, now going back to the Sequence Generator Pro, where it's got all this stuff already, we can go to any of the objects now, and poof, look, they're all got the same exposures. So just remember that first trick is once you've got it, you can right click and then copy all the events to all the other objects you want to. Okay, so you go ahead and do that. And what's next on the list? So we've rearranged. We want to actually, for the Messier marathon, we want to start with M45 in our case. Yes, a regular imager, or no, a regular star hopper would start with M74 at 77, but you want to start with M45 because it's up high. It's already dark up there, and over on the horizon, it's not dark enough to take M74. There's a whole lot of other things we can do, but there's only so much we can do. I've already taken 2 hours on this adventure. There is some other things we're going to look at, though. There are some objects that can be grouped together. Obviously, M42, 43 should be grouped together. M65, 66, 85, 86, 81, 82. Maybe your field of view allows it. Maybe you want to take separates, but maybe they allow it. So how do you go about doing that? Well, there's lots of ways to do it. You see how I've got M65 and 66 here? Okay, let's go over to one of the tools that comes with It's called the Framing and Mosaic Wizard. And I'm going to ask it to look up M65. Okay, and it's going to look up M65 and show it to me. Let's get this out of the way. There's M65 and M66 and NGC something that I can't remember. And I want to put all three of those in the same field of view. And I just because I've worked this out already, I already know that I can already do that. Define the camera data. It's absolutely essential that this be correct. This is the data that it got from my equipment profile earlier. So I'm going to draw a target rectangle. And that's what I really want to get. And it says, okay, dude, you need 2 pictures to get that. Well, so I need to change that a little bit. And I want to draw a smaller rectangle. How do I get rid of that rectangle? I just want to go with 1 panel. Okay, so now you can see that that is where I have to have. Now, if I had a rotator, I could rotate that so it'd be even nicer, but I can barely fit them in together like this. Okay, so see how you use the Framing and Mosaic Wizard? You call down the object that you want, and now it's going to be M6566 when I'm finished with it. And this is already populated. I'm going to move the target rectangle as I need. I could rotate it if I wanted to. If I had a rotator, I could say, oh, okay, I want to be over there, wherever, and move the rectangle over like that. And having done all that and made sure that it's a 1 by 1, because I'm not making a mosaic tonight, I'm going to create a sequence for it. Now it's going to give me a choice. Where do I want it? I want it to append to the targets in the sequence, and I want to center it this time. All right. And let's see, what other? So I tell it, okay, go. So it goes over and it makes up a new target to add to my sequence. Now you can use this on any object. It's not, there's lots of times where you want to do this, but that's how you use the Mosaic Wizard. And the important key to using the wizard correctly is to make sure that you've got all your camera data plugged in where it belongs. Now you see that it's put M65 way down at the end of my list here. Well, I want to move M65 up to where M65 was in my original list, which is right here. Did I move it too far? Let's see. Okay. Now, I no longer want to do these. So what do I want to do? I want to check them off. I don't want them anymore. Now, let's take a look at what the target looks like now. Remember, on all of my targets, I told it not to center. But this one from the Mosaic Wizard, remember I was so tight on the edges there? I told it I wanted to center. That means it's going to take the extra minute or so to go ahead and plate solve this one. So that's okay. And frankly, I want it to focus. I want it to center on the first image of the night. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to tell it center, but don't, whether you're slew or not's immaterial, center up when the target starts. So it'll be accurate on that. And, halfway through the night, I want to, well, I know I'm M65. I've only got 10 here for an example, but boom, I'll come down. Let's say that's halfway through the night for some reason. Oh no, that's too close to the horizon. I don't want to be, let's go to M31 and I can say, remember, was it Elias that was asking if you can go back and see, it says slew to, but no, center on, actually center on it. And every 5 or 8 or 10 objects, depending on how much you trust your mouth, if you're doing the Messier marathon, tell it to re-plate solve so that if it's starting to get lost, it'll stop getting lost. Now, a couple more things I want to teach you. One is M30, notice it's in the wrong place here. So the first thing we want to do is move it down. And so it's moved down. And the other thing is it rises some 20 minutes after you've already taken this picture here. So when do you want it to start? Let's look at some things that SGP can help us with. Right now, if we were to start it, it would be at minus 61 degrees. See this stuff down here? This actually tells you what time of day you can have it start. Now you could go back to Astro Planner and figure it all out, or you could just say, I shouldn't have touched it there. Don't start imaging until it gets to 3 degrees above the horizon, okay? And if you tell it 3 degrees above the horizon, oops, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have, I clicked enter and I shouldn't have done that. So at 3, so now it's gonna start at 4:44 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's when it's gonna start. But I've gotta click this to tell it when to start. Now, when do I want it to end? Well, when it gets about 10 degrees. Now, in fact, 10 degrees would be way too high. So I click on that, and you know what? That whole sequence, the Astro Planner thing I had over there, look what happens when you click Planning Tools. You actually have for M30, you can see when it is actually rising above the horizon. And you notice, look over here. It's still dark for a little bit, but it's not going to be dark for long. But here comes another problem then. In my case, I don't know exactly how high my observatory roof is, but I do know that I wanted to start. Let me see if I can get this up a little higher so you can all see it. See this planning tool? I don't know when it got into to Sequence Generator Pro, but I really didn't discover it until I tried to plan for this Messier marathon. Okay, and this shows you where it starts. I told it to start imaging and where I told it to quit imaging. It shows you where it's light and dark. So all that stuff we just did in Astro Planner, or a lot of that stuff that you just saw in Astro Planner, is right here. It also shows you for the cursor what time it is. That's really cool stuff. Okay, we don't need any more of that stuff, so we're just going to say we're going to get out of here. But when I'm on M30, look, I better be pretty accurate. If I say go ahead and take 3 75-second exposures during my Messier marathon, I don't know exactly when it's coming up, and I don't know exactly when it's going to get bright. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bump this up to take 20, 30. Just start taking pictures of what you think is M30 and keep taking them until it's bright enough out there that, you know, you're certainly going to miss one of those shots. Now, as it turns out, I did that, and my first 10 shots were all screwed up. I was looking at the side of my observatory, and then I started seeing above the observatory, I saw some sky, and I got my pictures of M30. But had I not added all those extra exposures, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Now, I could have, I suppose, calculated exactly how high my observatory work was on and all that other stuff. At any rate, did you learn anything about Sequence Generator Pro and how to put all that stuff in? That's what that whole exercise was about, folks. There's some other things you should do before you actually start. I told you about checking center on, so that every 8 to 10 or 12 or however much you check, you go ahead and recenter. You do your autofocus so that you autofocus maybe once an hour, or if you've got an automatic temperature compensating, you don't have to worry about that maybe. You do all that kind of stuff, okay? Whatever you need to do, just remember that every time you autofocus, every time you plate solve, you're wasting time. Now, it's a very good waste of time if you're doing serious grown-up imaging, you know, taking 12 to 20 sub-exposures of each object, and you're only going after maybe one object a night. But during a Messier marathon, you just don't have time to do it. Uncheck image history. Up here, tools, image history. Image history is real good. I don't believe I've got, yeah, I don't have any image history to show you over here, but this will show you how your focus is going and everything else, and it'll show you if you're getting bad exposures. Doesn't mean much though when you're doing a Messier marathon, because you don't have any time to change anything around anyway. So you don't want image history enabled. Every time you download a picture, it takes a few seconds, depending on the speed of your computer, maybe 10 to 15 seconds before it'll start the next exposure while it's waiting. So you want to disable it when you're doing the Messier marathon. And then when all's ready, you just click one sequence and off it goes and it's moving. Oh, you probably don't want to be auto guiding either. You're taking short exposures if you can't trust your mount to keep it going for that amount of time. Anyway, folks, that's all my notes, all the things I wanted to tell you about. If you have any questions, or where are we, Adam? Let me see if I can hear you now.
Yeah, there hadn't been any more questions specifically about Messier Marathon and SGP. Some specific, some about focusing with SGP that I answered in chat. Can you set limits with SGP so it knows where trees or other objects are?
Where it knows where what or other objects?
Trees or the horizon, for that matter.
Yeah, you can tell it to not. Yeah, you can tell it to not start until it gets to the
Right.
to a certain altitude, and you can tell it to stop when it gets to an altitude, and you can tell it to stop. If you're doing grown-up imaging, not doing silly Messier marathon chasing, you can put in your two objects, one that's rising just after sunset, an hour before sunset, so that it's up high enough. You can image that until it gets to a certain point, and then you can tell it to go back now and start a different object, and you can do that all with that sequence planning timing tool that I showed you. Okay?
Yep. Awesome. Well, that was a great presentation. Really cool how you can automate the sequence to shoot the entire Messier marathon. You know, one thing I'm wondering is, because I know it takes a long time to set it up, I wonder if people could actually share the sequences online. I don't know how large they are.
This question was asked last week, and I think I was rude the way I answered it. Yeah, you write me and I'll send you a file with, all you would have to do is load my file, and then can you still see my screen over here where it goes file, apply, apply profile to sequence? Well, your profile is already appropriate to your setup, your camera and your telescope and everything. So if you just apply your profile to whatever sequence I would send you the target locations. You might want to change the timing on the shots. But remember I said I said, no, you can't have that. The whole purpose of this is for you to learn how to use SGP. I mean, it's already, for me, remember, I'm a visual observer. I've done the Messier marathon several times, and just by star hopping and things, I've got the little merit badge from the Astronomical League that says I've got the Messier objects. I've sketched them all. I've done all that stuff. So it's really goofy to actually do a Messier marathon in the first place. It's kind of a trick show, like I can get all 110 one night. But it's really, really bad if you're doing it go-to, because that's like, God, you're supposed to run 26 miles, and the first thing you're going to do is get in a golf cart and drive 26 miles. And then to have all this go-to going on and Sequence Generator Pro taking care of everything, yeah, you're really getting lazy. And then you have Alex send you the finished results of all this. You haven't learned anything. You're sitting in the back of Alex driving around a golf cart, and it's just that's not running a marathon anymore. So there. Yes, it is possible to do all this stuff. Yeah, you can write to me and I will eventually send it to you and stuff like that. But no, that's not fair. It's cheating. Elias asks, are there other software that is comparable to SGP? Yes, there are other people that run much more sophisticated programs than SGP that are pretty much bulletproof. There are people all over the world, and their observatories are all over the world someplace else. And we have had programs where on the Astro Imaging channel where we've described them. Maxim does it, and then there are programs that actually run Maxim. CCD Autopilot does a lot of it. CCD Commander does a lot of it. None of them do it for, what is it, $99 or 120? I don't know. I don't know how much Sequence Generator Pro. The rest of the programs all require, I think, that you have Maxim. The Sky does a lot of this. Not all of it, but the Sky does a lot of it. The Sky X. I did a show on automation once upon a time, and it's, gosh, it was all the way back in the first year, I think, of the Astro Imaging channel. And I think that the next least expensive program for doing all this stuff will cost you at least $600 to $800, if I remember correctly. Most of them are based on Sequence Generator Pro or the Sky X. Sky X is what, $350, $400, and Sequence and Maxim was $650. I really don't know what it is anymore.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alex. I hope that answered your questions. Yeah, Elias, $100 does sound better. There's a reason a lot of us are using it. I don't think it's been, I mean, it's a relatively new program compared to some of those more bulletproof options that Alex was talking about. I don't think it's gotten the reputation for being bulletproof yet. Maybe it needs a little bit more time on the market, but we all are using it and are very happy with it. And in general, it's been pretty bulletproof for me. That said, I haven't set it up 1,000 miles away from my house. So, but Alex, thank you. I will give you one quick opportunity, you guys out there, one quick opportunity to ask your questions, but I think we pretty much wrapped it up. Again, thanks to Alex for both showing off his Messier marathon and how he did it, which is an accomplishment that he's managed to do a few times in his life. That said, if we don't have anything else, thank you guys for watching. Next week's session, Steve Sagarian is going to be presenting on his, well, I don't know his terminology for it, but it is a power switching rig runner like unit that can be controlled via Bluetooth, via ASCOM, or a number of different methods. So I don't know, power is always one of our most popular topics because it's one of the biggest pains in the butts when you're on the road. But yeah, it should be a good one. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Alex, for presenting. And we'll see you all next week. Good night.